Not asking you to go out and listen to them. I'm telling you, I like them. And I always will. And they do. This is the show where I talk about the artists and groups that have influenced me as a musical fan. And this week is no exception. This is Influencers. I'm TC Kirkham, the Kirkham Report. Thank you for watching, VC. This one's going to turn off a lot of people, but I've got to be honest. I got to get it out there because I don't know how else to do it. It is one of the weirder episodes of this show I've done, number one. And number two, I really don't know how to describe my love for this group. I was not in the demographic. I was in my 20s by the time they started hitting. But being a pop fan and a teen idol fan, I guess that's where it comes from. The strangest thing about my love for this group is I actually own more outside projects by ex-members of the group than I own by the group itself. I'm not going to have time to go through all of those I have, but I will have a slideshow of the different albums I own on Magic Box, because all of those are on CD except one or two. But I do have an affinity for them. So I'm just going to tackle it right from the beginning. And I mean, I first saw them in an ad in Billboard magazine in 1981, 2 years before they started attempting their would-be takeover of American pop music. For number one, the kind of music they did influence me in the fact that I did not speak their language. I still do not speak their language. And yet it lent me, except for one earlier song, it lent to me an all-new world of music. I have so much Latin stuff in my collection, it's scary. I don't speak a word of Spanish, and yet I love it. I love every bit of it. I have some Japanese and some German and some French too. I don't speak those languages. I love what I hear. And it all started with one small boost from Eras 2 by Menuditis in 1974, which was the first Spanish language top 10 hit in America, and a Eurovision runner-up. Was the band that came out, and I'd been bugging my local record store to get the other stuff, the earlier stuff, and they couldn't get it. I don't know why. I just was. And then they signed a deal with RCA International, and it lasted for a number of albums. I don't have all those either, but I have most of them. And I still listen to them. I still love them. And most of them, a couple of them aren't with us anymore, and most of them are in their 40s and 50s now. Some of them have found major success in America, others have not. But this was the album that officially started it all in America, and I would be a big fan from that point on. We are talking about Menudo. This is a Total Rock from 1983, the first album released on RCA International. Let me see if I can see this. Ricky Melendez, Johnny Lozada, Ray Reyes, Roy Rosello, Charlie Masso on this one. Of course, they rotated depending on when they got older. there was always, almost always a new member on each album. This album is entirely in Spanish. I did not speak a word of it, and yet I loved every second of it, listened to it over and over again, and realized I love the sound of Latin music. I love the sound of Spanish in music. I don't speak it, and the songs that they would record in English off this album did not directly translate. They wrote mostly new lyrics. From this album, Indianapolis, Piel de Manzana, Chiquel de Amor, Una buena razón. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this. As I said, I don't speak Spanish. A todo va bien. Si tú no estás. Amor en bicicleta. Bicicleta. Zumbador. Ladrón de Amor, and No te reprimas. This was released at the time that they were doing a major blitz in America. They had 6 sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden. They were saying goodbye to Miguel Cancel, who was replaced by Roy Vasello. They had their own store in New York City. They had television appearances out the wazoo for the next 2 months, starting off on a 3-night all-live variety program called Live and In Person, hosted by agent and manager Sandy Frank. It didn't do that well. And of course, this is the lineup that would be a part of Menudo on ABC that fall of 1983, doing bilingual songs, Spanish and English, as part of the Schoolhouse Rock banner. Although they weren't officially under that banner, they were in the time slots. This is, as I said, this is RCA International, which you can see the International on the side there. The English language albums do not carry the International logo. And they started hitting the Kirkham Report chart in Spanish. They continued to hit the Kirkham Report chart in Spanish, and their ex-members did the same thing for the next 10 years because I just loved it. I would have programmed them. I thought they needed more exposure, and if they had gotten proper exposure on radio, they would have been bigger in America than they were. And so many of them deserve better. Now there is a special on HBO, a 4-part documentary called Menudo Forever Young, which I've been watching, and or Young Forever, I forget which one it is. I've been watching. I've watched the first 2 halves of it, and I'm going to watch the other 2 halves in the next couple of days and report back on the whole thing probably this weekend on the Kirkham Report. We'll see. But there was a lot going on, but they loved what they did. A Toto Rock from 1983. The next album would be their English language debut. RCA had a huge hope for it. It sold well, but it didn't sell hugely. It didn't go gold. Let's put it that way. Here I am yawning again. Damn it. It was recorded mostly in Spain and Puerto Rico, and it featured the newest member of the band, who was stepping in for Johnny Lozada as his replacement, Robbie Rosa. Now we have Robbie Rosa, Charlie Masso, Ricky Melendez, and then Ray Reyes and Roy Rosello. The album was called Reaching Out. It was their first English language album. It was complete with a logo and a lyric sleeve. This went on RCA Victor proper. It included the theme from Cannonball Run 2, Like a Cannonball, along with Indianapolis, Heavenly Angel, Because of Love, Motorcycle Dreamer, If You're Not Here by My Side, That's What You Do, Gimme Rock, Gotta Get On Movin', and Fly Away. There were pockets of support for Menudo, as I found out, much to my surprise, when I was prepping an episode of the Retro Radio Countdown a few months ago, and came across a station in Hilo, Hawaii, I believe it was, where If You're Not Here by My Side was at number 1 the week of that was featured on the survey chart. Blew my mind, because I picked those at random. And it was a great song. Like a Cannonball was a single. Motorcycle Dreamer was a single. They performed that one on Silver Spoons. They were all over television, all over advertising. And Robbie Rosa here would eventually become a major star on his own. We'll talk about that when we get to that section. But this was the first English language album, and it was pretty damn good. Now, before the next Spanish language album, RCA International culled from their earlier albums on Pedosa America, their Puerto Rican label, and put out Con Amor, Tus Éxitos Favoritos. It included the Spanish language version of Like a Cannonball, plus earlier hits like Lady, Cuero Rock, Chiquitita, Cambale Las Pilas, Clara, Subuete Mi Moto, Quiero Ser, A Volar, Es Por Amor, Fuego, and Luluvia. I'm not going to go over each incarnation of the band. These two at the bottom were the current incarnations, and then they had other people. Trying to think of who else is here that really should be brought out. Renee Ferrate would later be a part of other stuff I'll talk about. And Xavier Zerba would be a part of other stuff, and now is an anchor on Latin, Spanish language Fox Sports Net. So he has come a completely different direction. But this has some great stuff. I love their version of ABBA's Chiquitita, which was a big hit for them down in Puerto Rico. And everything here, they did do some of these in English on Reaching Out, but I like the Spanish language versions better. The next album was also Spanish language and introduced Ricky Melendez's replacement. Ricky would be leaving, and he was replaced by this guy, the youngest guy in the band at the time, 12-year-old Ricky Martin. Ricky would become the best known of any of these guys in his solo careers, along again with Charlie Masso, Ray Reyes. I gotta look at it this way: Ray Reyes, Ricky Martin, Roy Rosello, and Robbie Rosa. This album was in Spanish, featured Sabes a Chocolate, Yo No Fui, Yo Cierro Tu Balearin, butchering it again, Parque del Este, Amor Primero, Agua de Limón, Hone Reflexión, Persecución, Rayo de Luna, and Me Gusta Esta Chica. Again, I still was playing these out quite a lot. Again, RCA International. I actually have one of the Menudo action figures somewhere. And strangely enough, I think it was Ray Reyes. I don't remember which one I have, but I have those. And I had a lot of other collectibles too, books and stuff. I was really into them, and I still like them. That's why it's so weird to be talking about it. Excuse me, I'm about to knock a notebook off the table. Because I'm not really sure why I became as obsessed with them as I did when I was in my 20s. I was not the demographic, like I said. 1985 brought the English language self-titled album Menudo. This is the only album that was a major hit in America. It just missed gold, produced a top 60 single called Hold Me, which was all over MTV and Nick Rocks in 1985. Also, You and Me All the Way, Come Home, When I Dance With You, Don't Hold Back, Explosion, Oh My Love, Chocolate Candy, Transformation, and Please Be Good to Me. You and Me All the Way was also released as a single off this album, and I want to say Explosion was the third single. This band, this version, now features Ray Acevedo replacing Ray Reyes, Roy Rosello up here, and on the bottom, Ricky Martin, Robbie Rosa, Charlie Masso. Charlie was already 17 at this point. He was. They kept them around for a while because they couldn't find anybody, which actually worked out to their advantage. This had a full color sleeve with photos and lyrics. And as I said, Hold Me was actually the only song they hit American charts with. I believe it peaked at number 60, number 59, something like that, which was a pretty respectable showing, but compared to their Latin America roots, It wasn't much, but it did show that they could do something with the English language market. And by this point, Robbie, who was the first member of the band that was born in the States, had been joined by other fairly decent English speakers. Ricky Martin was getting fluent there. A lot of great stuff. And this album is terrific all the way around. You and Me All the Way, which I always thought had been performed by Ricky, but actually I have a home video of a concert special they did that shows Ray Acevedo singing it. So I'm not sure if, I swear it sounds like Ricky on the album. But in any case, this was a good album. And on the Kirkham Reports, Come Home was also a big hit, which Charlie Masso did lead vocals on. Next up was the another Spanish language album, Ayer Ahoy, which features the same lineup, very rare on their American albums. Again, RCA International. Rather than butcher the titles again, here's a list of the titles. There we go. Side 1 and Side 2. This is the only album I have by them that I don't listen to that much. It's not that I don't like it. It's kind of an afterthought. And I do, again, when it comes to, this is what bothers me. I end up liking the stuff in Spanish better than the stuff in English. Sabes a Chocolate, which Robbie Rosa does lead vocals on, is outstanding in Spanish. When translated to Chocolate Candy on this album, it just stiffed for me. I don't know why that is. It's just not as good. Now, if you're not here by my side, which was a translation or a rewriting of Si Tu No Estás from the other album, it's actually as good in English as it is in Spanish. So, there you go. But that's just how I feel. The next album would be Robbie, Ray, Charlie, Ricky, and new member Sergio, who replaced Roy Rossello. Can't Get Enough. Summer in the Streets, we have a song, Tell Me How You Feel, No One Can Love You More, Old Enough to Love, Jumping Over, I Can't Spend Another Day Without You, Stay With Me, and Marie, I Need You. This is a great English language album. We get to hear Sergio on lead for the first time, and Sergio would lead them for a number of years. But my favorite song on this album is Jumpin' Over, which Charlie Masso sings lead on. It's kind of a goofy song, but lyrically, it's actually pretty good. Now, I think it's actually on Ayer Ahoy in Spanish, but I don't remember. This was the last English language album on RCA International. They started slipping in sales, and RCA dropped them at the end of the contract. When they came back in 1988, they had switched up members again, twice actually, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, they switched up several. They'd moved to Blue Dog Records, which was distributed by Sutra, which was a dance label. And at this point, they were Ricky Martin and Ray Acevedo and Sergio Gonzalez from the earlier group, along with the more recent additions of Angelo Garcia and Ruben Gomez. This is Sons of Rock. This is the final English language album. Sons of Rock, Good Lovin', TLC, Miss You Until Tomorrow, Say Why, You Got Potential, Nights on Fire, 999, To Leave Once More, and that last title is in red, I Will. This was the first one that they did that didn't have direct connections to Pedosa, because Pedosa had filed for bankruptcy the previous year. They also made their final TV appearance that I remember on Dance Party USA, promoting this album in 1988. And then, of course, in 1990, the entire world fell out from underneath them when Ruben and Sergio were arrested in Miami for possession of marijuana. Ruben was 17 and charged as a minor, and Sergio was 18 and charged as an adult, and they were both fired from the band, and that pretty much ended any American chance they had. They released a number of albums in America. Eventually, Eduardo Diaz, the owner of Menudo, sold it, and they changed their name to MDO in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Didn't go anywhere. They've tried redoing the band several times. Hasn't really worked, at least in America. Now, I enjoy all of these, and I know the vinyl community is going, Menudo, what the F is that dumbass 60-year-old man talking about Menudo for? How were they an influencer in my life? I have a huge string of solo albums by a lot of these guys, not least of which are Ricky Martin's massively successful albums. But surprisingly enough, my favorite album by Ricky is his second album from 1993, Mi Amarás, the title track of which actually hit #1 on the Kirkham report back then. The first Spanish language song to do that, I think, or actually second, because he was beat there by another Spanish singer named Luis Miguel, who I have also been fascinated with since the early 90s. This is the only solo album I have by any of them on vinyl. This is Johnny Lozada's debut solo album, Invite-me and Vedame. Again, I'm not going to butcher the titles. There's the titles if you can get it to focus in. Johnny is a big part of the first episode of Menudo Forever Young. Great sense of humor, but he also has some pathos about the kind of things that went on, which people didn't realize for the first decade they were around. Why do I consider them an influencer? Well, I have let me just go through here real quick. In addition to the Johnny solo album, I have solo or other group efforts from another group, which first featured Johnny, Renee, and Xavier, and then later Johnny, Renee, and Ray Reyes, called Proyecto M, 2 albums by them. I have solo album and by Charlie Masso, as well as a album from Grupo Chaos, the mariachi band he led for a while. I have Robbie Rosa, the salsa soundtrack. Robbie starred in salsa after leaving the band. He also recorded a song for that in English called Under My Skin. Of course, under the name Robbie, R-O-B-I, he is one of the biggest Latin stars of the 90s. And he did do an English language album with a band he put together called Maggie's Dream, which is really kind of like an alternative sound to it, and it's freaking awesome. Robbie's their lead vocalist and does some great stuff. And like I said, I had 4 or 5 of Ricky. I think I got 7 of Ricky Martin's solo albums, including both English and Spanish. Is that it? I think that might be all. I'll run them by you before I go. I have a couple of Sergio's solo albums. I have Ruben Gomez's debut solo album. Angelo Garcia, I've never found the solo stuff by. I mean, it's on Discogs. I just haven't gotten around to getting it. I did like his stuff, though. And they opened a new world for me. The world of Spanish language music. And it would lead me to a new way of thinking about music. You don't have to understand it to enjoy it. I mean, if you listen to Luis Miguel's Bolero albums and you don't have chills going down your spine, you are simply probably 6 feet under. I don't know quite why. Now, like I said, the first Spanish language music I ever became enamored with was Eres Tú by Menuditis. Eres Tú was a #9 hit, the first ever song completely in Spanish to hit the American top 10. Even though they'd been beaten to #1 by Japan, Sukiyaki by Q Sakamoto, France, or French language, Dominique by the Singing Nun, Italian, Volare by Domenico Modugno. You'd think that, Spanish language stuff would have taken off. Spanish language did not get their own #1 song until Despacito in 2017. What the hell? I mean, And I'm not a particularly huge fan of the remix with Justin Bieber. I like the original better. Um, I found so much more thanks to my love for Menudo. In addition to their solo stuff, in addition to, I'd still love to go back and get the earlier stuff and all the solo albums I missed, Renee's and Fernando Salaberry's, and all the ones I missed. Oh, I have a Xavier Zerga album too, or two, one or two of those actually. So I have something by him too. Um, it opened a new world for me, not just in English language, Spanish language. Luis Miguel has become one of my favorite artists of all time. I love the man's voice. Just an incredible singer. Um, it has opened my eyes to other languages too. In addition to hits that were hits earlier and that I liked, that were in those other languages, I have gone past that to other languages in addition to Spanish. I have a number of things in Japanese. Kyu Sakamoto's Sukiyaki, of course, is probably the gold standard there, but I became an intense fan of a young duo in the mid 2000s called Hirakaruchi Achome. I think that's how it was pronounced. They're no longer performing. They were a pair of brothers that did some incredible music. Also became a fan of the rap rock band Sold Out. Ken Harai, a number of Japanese stars that I really loved. French. I've got albums by Renee Simard in French. I've got albums by Celine Dion in French. I've got Jordi, of course. Du etre bébé. And other things too. German, Du hast by Rammstein, and I'm not into the whole Rammstein thing, but I love that song. And other, I mean, most recently, there is a very good chance right now that a major French-speaking performer is about to explode worldwide. This young man's name goes by the moniker Jean's Tears. He represented Switzerland at the Eurovision Song Contest in the canceled 2020 year, and in 2021 when he was the runner-up with his song Tour Universe. His debut album is due out in April, and it is about to blow minds. His first English language single is out there now. This guy's voice, whether you sing in English or French, go and look up Jean's Tears on YouTube and find him when he appeared on The Voice, France or Switzerland, I forget which. He will blow your mind. The man is incredible. I am so glad to have this openness in my life where I don't care about the language. If I like what it sounds like, if I like the feel, if I like the vibe, I'm going to like the song. And as wacky as it sounds, these preteen kids from Puerto Rico put that and instilled it in me. I will always love these Menudo albums. I don't care that I'm now 60 years old and I probably shouldn't be listening to them. But need I remind you that many of them are coming close to my age. In fact, a couple of them are in their 60s. Xavier Zerbia and Ricky Melendez and Johnny Lozada are all in their 50s. We lost Ray Reyes a year and a half ago at the age of 54 of a massive heart attack. Ray was one of the coolest members of the band ever. It's part of me. It is ingrained in me. And it shows that not just an artist can be influential in their sound, but in the sound they produce and lead you to. Nobody in my collection, there is more evidence of that than Menudo. You can poo-poo them all you want to. That's fine. I understand they're not everybody's taste, and they're not going to be everybody's taste. They're a teeny bopper band. They're aimed at the preteen and early teen girl set. But their music is good. And if you go back and look at some of the later stuff, that was produced, especially by Robbie Rosa, Ricky Martin, Charlie Masso, and Ruben Gomez. And now Sergio just put out a new album earlier this year or late last year with a new grungy metal band. I can't remember the name of it, but I've got it on my pre-order thing. I'm still buying stuff from them. They will show you. They were no fluke as Menudo. I mean, my God, that solo album Ruben Gomez put out is stellar. Sergio's solo albums are good. Ricky Martin, in particular, Mi Amarás from 1993, and Ricky Martin from 1999 with his hit Livin' La Vida Loca. We saw Ricky Martin in concert that year. The man knows how to entertain. He is a natural-born entertainer. He is fantastic on stage, put on one of the best shows we have ever seen, and I wish the reunion, I can't pronounce it, it's El Irrecondudo? El Recontero? I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't speak it. Ricky, Miguel, Johnny, Ray Reyes originally, and two of the others got back together for a couple of reunion tours in the late 90s, doing their old hits, and it was completely away from Eduardo Diaz. And what I've seen of them, I've watched a couple of full concerts on YouTube. They were still mind-blowing. They still got it. They still got it. Look up some of their stuff on YouTube. And, I mean, some of it is very juvenile, but these reunion concerts were fantastic. They were clearly having the time of their lives in their 30s and 40s out there performing for the ladies now in their 30s and 40s that grew up with them. That's an amazing feeling, I bet. It's the kind of feeling that you see from the fans who watch Hanson or Backstreet Boys or New Kids on the Block now here. It's the same thing. And the music is timeless. There are 4 or 5 of their hits, Hold Me in particular, which is their best known song, but I've always been partial to If You're Not Here by My Side and its Spanish counterpart, Si Tu No Estás, and a couple of the other songs. Not asking you to go out and listen to them. I'm telling you, I like them. And I always will, and they did influence me in ways that continue to open my mind to other acts, other languages, other sounds, other ethnic beats that I don't know that well. And I will be forever grateful for that. Guys, wherever you are, know that you've done well. I know you guys went through hell and back in some cases, several of you in personal cases. But you opened my eyes to something I never knew was out there when I was in my 20s. And I will always remember that. And we miss you, Ray. Godspeed.
The new generation of Menudo, the wildly popular boy band from decades ago, is back, and we have Alejandro, Andres, Ezra, Gabriel, and Nicholas all here with us, and one of the big names behind Menudo, Mario Lopez.
Hey,
my friend. Back in the day, yes, we did a few segments from a previous life.
That's right. That's right.
Let me talk to you first. I mean, obviously, Menudo, this brings back big memories for you. You grew up on the group. What was it like to be a part of this reboot and this reimagined Menudo?
Well, like you said, I was a huge fan of Menudo. Growing up, they were an iconic boy band who literally sold millions and millions of records all over the world. And seeing this group of young Latinos be able to do that, transcend language, transcend music, was a beautiful thing. And it's been a few decades now, a couple decades. Yeah. So I thought it'd be a great time at this moment to reintroduce them now to a whole new generation, especially when Latin music is so hot in the mainstream. And we got a great group of kids right here.
Mi amore, mi amore, God, and if you're lonely too, make it through the rain. And I cry too many nights, and I just can't take the pain. And I try to treat you right, like constantly. Mi amore, I don't love you anymore. Mi amore, I'm walking right up through the door. And I'm tired.
If you haven't subscribed to my shows, I hope you will. If you have, thank you. I hope that you'll share my shows with other friends of yours on your favorite social medias. And also, please leave a comment and let me know what you think of this show or anything else. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to converse, especially about something that you may want to ask questions about. And I understand this probably is one of those. It's not something that you guys would normally be listening to. But I hope you do enjoy watching it and enjoy me, Scary Beard and all, talking about it. I'll be back with another influencers next week, and there's more Menudo to come in the next week or two. Going to be doing a couple other things with them. For influencers, I'm TC Kirkham, the Kirkham Report. Thank you. Ciao, baby.